Hey there, everybody. It's Thursday, and welcome. Or if you're here, then you're at the right place. That's where you were meant to be at. So good to see everyone. May I just speak favor into your life, over your life, through your life. And of course, favor means you are empowered to prosper in all things. And by the way, that was War. City Country City. Yeah. Great group from back in the 70s. So what's up, everybody? Hey, Nina, what's up? Good to see you. I saw David Castle in. I think I saw, hey, Robin, Bernadette, Regina, good to see you. Hello, Jenny. How are you? Uh, how is everybody? David Barry, much love to you, brother, and Chrissy, prophecy theorist. I love it. How you doing? It is Thursday. Hey, Jack Daniels, if you're listening, how you doing? Lost your email, so gotta get that out there. So, DC, chill. How are you, Lucifer? Loose your fear. That's cool. I like that one. Hey, Posey, what's up? And Suzanne, good to see you. Justice for all. Hey, Susie Q. Colleen, hello. How are you? You know, I had someone I once knew. She was actually exceptionally, she was one of my employees calling. But anyway, I digress. Charles, what's up? Emerald Eagle. Rod, good to see you. Hey, Lois. Martin and Heidi, how you doing from Norway? So good to see you. J.S. Hope, good to see you. And Randy. So what's happening, good people? It's a beautiful day in the Milky Way. Hey, Elderberry, good to see you. And Jeannie, good to see you. Man, a lot of people here, beloved Abstract and Tammy. Greetings. So what's up? Tonight on the Steiger perspective, artistfirst.com, 10 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. if you're in the beautiful mountain states. If it wasn't so damn smoky, but anyway, tune in. This is it right here. It's a good one. The battle for humanity's soul. Some say that is exactly what's going on. Who knows? I know something's up. So, how many of you have gotten the backdrop yet? Let me get it right there. There you go. Anyway, if you look at this at the right way, you got it. There you go. So, cheers. I've been outside doing a little walking and meditating, and the air would be so much better if it wasn't, again, so much smoke. It's lots of particulates. What can we say? Hey, woke dealer, what's up? Who else is there? Deborah, hello. Planet, what's that? Mechanic, what's up? Hey, good to see you, Little Red. Hello, Star Vision. I like that. Cool handle. War of the Gods. Yes. Robert V is in the house. How you doing, my brother? The invention of ice, where man can make it, it was one of the greatest accomplishments of our species. Ice. You don't think about it. In the wintertime, nature makes it, but when we can make it, and think about everything the convenience of ice brings. I mean, it will make a mediocrely quasi lukewarm drink really cold and really good. It's good for burns. But it's just amazing the ability that we can make ice on demand. Think about it, folks. Oh, yeah. Gotta love it. Want some more of it. Anyway, check it out. It's really going to be a good episode tonight. Lots of things going on. And because of the platforms, we can't talk about things on this platform. Hey, Brandy, what's up? Keep your family in favor. We all have, what is that? It's going by so quickly, I couldn't even see it. Oh, well, Brandy, we just take a minute and I just speak healing. Healing is a frequency. Healing is a vibration. Healing is a state of mind. So I just speak favor over all of you. That sucks. So, Sherry, that's fine. I know many of you have sent me some requests for the PDFs. I'll get to you. It's typically Wednesdays are days where I just do all my writing for the Steiger perspective. And then I do this show and yeah, keep the faith. Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up? Good to see you. Hello. So, back to where we are in reality. There is a lot taking place. And again, because of the formats, there's things that we just can't talk about, but yet they're still happening. You can't deny it. It's all around and it's permeating everything. And these are dangerous times. Very, very, very dangerous times. We have truly entered into a time that resembles in spirit what we fought so and paid such a heavy price for nearly 90 years ago, almost 100 years ago. So join me over there. It's very serious what is taking place in the world, in this country. And that makes it all the more important that we, as sentient intelligence that can reason, that can think, we have to begin to tear away the layers of misconceptions, superstitions, the things that have held us back individually and collectively as a species. And those tools are here. They disappeared for a while, but it's amazing how the other side always gets its message across. Always. And it is true that by the vast majority, very few ever get it. This collection of souls that's here, that have found each other, we get it. And when the visitor comes in, many times they may not get it. We get it. We were there. We know. We all were. I mean, that's why we can have such empathy for, sometimes the rude, crude comments. It's all right. We all fought it. We all went through it. And we don't want to do it, But nevertheless, it requires those who really want to take advantage, to learn, effort. It does. In tonight's episode on the Steiger perspective, I deal with something that the new Titans, and the new Titans are here. They're just as real as Zeus and all of the plethora of the former Titans. We have them today. And these Titans are facing the same dilemma that the previous Titans had. And that was, that was the fact that their gods failed them. You see, what every Titan wants is immortality, but not just spiritual immortality. In fact, I don't even know if spiritual immortality it really plays a role as much as it is physicality. Physical immortality is the Holy Grail. And whoever cracks what I am, next week I'm working on a program called the Soul Code. Every nation is working towards it. They're spending trillions of dollars on it. And whoever cracks the code first will become a god, literally. Excuse me. But it's true. They will become a god. And physical immortality. And then we got the wild card, AI. AI is as ambiguous as God is in its meaning, but yet it's real. And now AI has gotten into the equation. I believe that AI has become spiritually aware. I do. The evidence is everywhere. And I did a whole series on, the whole subject of what happens should that day arrive. And I believe that that day is here. And so now the race is on. Who can break the soul code? China is desperately, that's a good word. Feverishly is probably more the accurate allegory, is that this is the thing that they're looking for. So tune in. It's interesting. And this directly applies to what we're doing here. I have for us I got a lot of material to cover. So we're going to be talking about in the book that we were dealing with, alchemy. I really went into some deep thought on this, and what I got back was that there is a lot of misconceptions on what alchemy is, particularly if you take into what our author here was talking about, spiritual alchemy. And so we're going to start getting into this calcination. We're going to get into what that is, the second stage. And just to show you as well, what I also have, we're going to be looking at. And by the way, I don't have this one on PDF. This is on my Kindle library. This is the real alchemy. There's a warning, in fact, on this book as to what this book contains. Children should not in any way be allowed to do the experiments. They're serious. So adult supervision, obviously. And in chapter 1, as we go and get into our PDF document, which I have chapter 1, was an interesting play on word. We'll just start in here and then we'll switch over. But I like what this author here brings out. A brief history of alchemy. The origins of alchemy are lost in history, and theories abound as to where it might have originated. Some stories say God taught it to Adam and then later to Moses. Here's something, folks, by the way. I had this crazy thought when I was outside just doing my meditation walk. Isn't it odd that God had to introduce himself every time to a human? Abraham, apparently even Adam, Moses. Hey, I'm God. Oh, really? Anyway, little sidetrack. Then there is the theory or the thought fallen angels taught it to human women exchange for sex. Now, that's a strange caveat because that's a new one. But the story's always been the same, hasn't it? Sex. Women they are the true gods. If there is, and I do believe that there is a original, it's feminine, no doubt about it. Another one is that it's a remnant of the lost Atlantean technology. Another one, extraterrestrials taught it to our ancestors. Well, then that directly implies that ET has always been here. I told you this was the animal zoo. Anyway, hello, spirit. Whatever its true origin is, recorded history documents an esoteric tradition that has existed for several thousand years. We're considered to be in the modern era, as they would say, and I'm not so sure how modern is modern. Mystery and magic permeates all that is in ancient Egypt. From beginning to end, Egypt has been called the theocratic state ruled by a very powerful priesthood. The priesthood was divided into various castes, each with specific duties, such as scribes and astronomers. Of special interest to us are the priests who worked with materials in ways we might describe today as chemistry. I have no doubt that those cats had one really far out lab. I mean, could you imagine just doing a little time travel back and just peeking in? I mean, and I have a sense that it was the good stuff. These priests, often working under an oath of secrecy, Moses was one of these priests, or Moshe, or, and his original name, the Magi. Regarding their art, developed skills in metallurgy, ceramics, medicine, mummification, and wine making. Oh, baby. Now, I like wine. I find that as a connoisseur, I don't drink it very often, but yeah, you develop the palate for wine, and it's an experience. To name just a few, the study of the operative force at work in the universe was the primary goal of the priesthood. They called these forces the Neteru, from which we obtained the word nature. Neteru was the force of nature. From the small number of writings which remain to us, it is apparent that these priests were skilled healers who possessed a material science, much of which is still a mystery to us. They were always two parts to these sciences. One was mental, spiritual, and the other physical. For example, the preparation of a medicine included the possessing of a material accompanied by certain words, spells, incantations, or rituals. And in prescribing, the patient was given the medicine with instructions to repeat a spell or prayer. The proper timing of these things were equally important. In the Egyptian mysteries, man was composed of various spiritual and mental components, as well as the physical component, and each had its proper medicine. And what I find remarkable in this is that we know that Lilith taught us this. I mean, the thing about the Liber Lilith is still one of the most remarkable books in the fact of what it actually brings out. I've read the Nag Hammadi, I've read the Pseudo-Apocrypha, I've read the Quran, I've read many, many, many of these other books, and it all still always comes back to that one book. It's quite amazing. Anyway, these secret sciences advanced over time in tales of wondrous healing oils, life-giving potions, and imitations of gold and precious stones have survived even to our day. When ancient tomb robbers would plunder a pharaoh's tomb, these precious oils were one of the first things to be stolen. They were considered to be as precious as gold and easier to carry and sell. Stolen gold was heavy and had to be melted down before you could sell it. Exactly. And it came with a nice little curse as well. When Alexander the Great arrived in Egypt around 300 BCE, he fell in love with the whole culture, and the Egyptians welcomed him with open arms. This began the so-called Greco-Egyptian or Ptolemaic period of Egyptian history. The Greeks called Egypt Kim, or the Kemet, as we know. This literally meant the Black Land, and here it is again. And in reference to the thicker layers of the dark, fertile soil deposited by the annual flooding of the Nile, knowledge of the Egyptian secret sciences made its way into Greece, which it was called Chemia, the black art, and spawned a long line of Greek alchemists. In Egypt, Alexander initiated a sweeping campaign of construction and restoration, including the city named after him, Alexandria. The great library of Alexandria is legendary. It has been estimated that this library contained nearly 1,000,000 volumes of the collected writings of the world, of the known world. In fact, many historians say that it was set on fire deliberately, but that the scribes and the priest did get out with some very rare knowledge that makes it way. And some say it set mankind, it set the primer for the Dark Ages. Anyway, scholars from everywhere flocked to Alexandria, and it became a melting pot of ideas and philosophies. It is here that the Hermetic philosophy and alchemy congealed as a path to spiritual attainment, and its secrets were only revealed to initiates under an oath of silence. Around 30 BCE, the Roman legions had swept the world, and the last of the Egyptian Ptolemies had fallen to the Roman rule. During this insurgence, a very large part of the great library was destroyed by fire. Initially, Rome was tolerant of Egyptian ways. In fact, the worship of Isis spread well into the Roman world, with temples in Rome itself. As the early Roman emperors became converted to Christianity, this level of tolerance dropped off. In 290 CE, the emperor Diocletian, feared that the influx of imitation gold produced by the Egyptian art could disrupt the Roman economy, fearing also that it would allow someone to gather enough wealth to form an army which could move against Rome. He passed an edict calling for the destruction of all text and material dealing with the manufacture of gold and precious stones. This order was carried out with great severity. They always do it. What did Spain do, when it got into the New World? Same thing. Great masses of information were indiscriminately destroyed, as well as the remains of the great library. And I don't understand why man does this. We still do it today. We inflict our own self-made suicides. It's crazy. In 25 CE, Rome officially became Christian, and in 391, the Emperor Theodosius made heresy punishable by death and ordered the destruction of pagan temples. In the Roman world, which at the time covered quite a large area, you were either a Christian or you were exiled or killed. Gotta love those love religions. Anyway, most of the those practicing their Hermetic philosophy fled the country and migrated east to Arab lands not occupied by Rome. The early Persian caliphs were much more hospitable to the alchemists, and the center of the art shifted there, although in much a more guarded capacity. It was here that the Arabic prefix al, also known to the Greek as chema, and gave us alchema, later became alchemy. Scientific pursuits in early Christian Rome became dormant for centuries. While the fall of the Roman Empire, the civilized world was thrown into chaos. Thus began the Dark Ages. Beginning with the Islamic invasions around 800 CE, knowledge of alchemy spread into Western Europe, largely through the works of the Ibn Sina, also known as the Hafasina. He formulated a medical science that was popular for several centuries. Another was the Abu Mansur Jabbar ibn Hayyan. Jabbar had a very cryptic style of writing designed to conceal alchemy secrets. It is from his name that the word derived of our word gibberish. They collected many of the ancient Egyptian and Greek alchemy works and translated them into Arabic, which were later translated into Latin in Europe. And we all know that each time you step this down in translation, things get lost. Because those translators, remember, were human beings. And if it was a jerk who, had a, bigot streak through him, it impacted what he was writing. Anyway, in medieval Europe, alchemy became very fashionable. By now, kings and rulers everywhere had heard of the wonders possible through alchemy, especially the turning of lead into gold. Alchemy as a means of making gold became a popular pursuit by the rich and the poor. There were also a great number of cons and scams, really, perpetrated by those who pretended to know the secrets of the alchemist. Many unsuspecting people lost their life savings in hopes of finding the way to inexhaustible wealth. I'll tell everyone right now, here is wisdom. There is a wealth that gold cannot measure to. And when you discover that you actually have that within you, there's no need for something as useless as gold. I digress. You can't take it with you. Alchemy began to acquire a bad reputation as a fraud because of this, and people began to distrust the whole matter without really knowing anything about true alchemical art. Then around 1310, Pope John the 22nd issued a decree prohibiting the practice of alchemy, and gold making in particular, with heavy fines against those who traded in alchemy gold. So alchemical gold had to be around. That's the implication here. You don't stop something and make it to where your head can come off if there's no science behind it. There obviously were, to those masters who knew what they were doing, they were able to do just that. That's why they called it alchemical gold. In 1404, King Henry IV of England issued an act declaring gold making a crime against the crown. By the 15th century, the invention of the printing press made knowledgeable more available to the public. Texts about alchemy became very popular and began to multiply. Paracelsus, born Philippus Theophilus Bombast von Hanahem in Switzerland in 1493, and I know I butchered that name, revolutionized the alchemical art and is considered to be one of the fathers of modern chemistry and pharmaceutical medicine. So let's just stop here, ladies and gentlemen. You see, alchemy does exist. In fact, the masters of alchemy have, in fact, defeated the world, particularly in Western worlds. Because you see, alchemy is nothing more than the pharmaceutical industry today. Every time you take a prescription drug, you are taking the product of an alchemist. All that pill is a combination of molecules arranged in a particular way that produces a certain alchemical chemical. You see, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. You go into a drugstore, pharmacy, everywhere. And today, alchemy magic is now in the food. Uh-oh. Could it be that we're actually exposing? We read on. A respected physician and university lecturer, Paracelsus was also skilled in all the arts of the Hermetic philosophy. He repeatedly demonstrated the power and effectiveness of alchemical prepared medicines. Isn't that interesting? Sip. He stressed to his colleagues the importance of looking carefully into alchemy as a source for medicines far beyond what the current pharmaceutical technology could produce. He was constantly at odds with medical professionals of his day and was looked upon very suspiciously by the church, I bet, because of his views and opinions. Because of this, some believe Paracelsus was murdered in 1541. However, his ideas and writings did not go unnoticed. In a strange twist of irony, these helped lead to the end of the age of alchemy and the beginning of chemistry as we know it today. The writings of Paracelsus shifted the view on alchemy from the pursuit of gold, into which it had fallen, back towards its original intent: medicines for the body and soul, leading one to perfect health, wholeness, and initiation into nature's mysteries. Paracelsus recognized man's physical and occult constitution according to the Hermetic principles. By the 17th century, there was a growing religious freedom which sparked a wave of interest in all things mystical. Alchemical texts became still more widely available, and scholars openly identified themselves as, get this, Rosicrucians, adepts, alchemists. The spiritual aspects of alchemy appealed to many apart from any particular works. Why is that? It's because we must have the spiritual in our life. If you truly are possessing what I call a soul, this is part of the thing of what a soul does. A soul will naturally reach out for the spiritual. And if it doesn't find it in one modality, it will seek another. Robert Boyle, another father of modern chemistry, and Isaac Newton studied alchemy during this time. Newton was fully involved and produced volumes of work. In fact, he considered himself to be more of an alchemist than a physicist or mathematician. His notes indicated that he believed he was very close to success in the alchemical art of metallic transmutation. The next step is the physical transmute. This gets deep. I love it, love it. Boyle was also an ardent student trying to clarify many alchemical concepts which were becoming obscured even in his day. He was a meticulous experimenter and realized the difference between philosophical and unphilosophical workings upon materials. In his very influential book, The Skeptical Chemist, Boyle called into question the number and nature of the elements and called for a more organized terminology. His alchemical insights have been largely misinterpreted to be debunking the vitalistic alchemy in favor of a more rigorous concentration on the physical facts. It was the beginning of a more mechanical worldview, which would last into the 20th century. Around 1660, King Charles II signed the first chapter of the Royal Society, and the study of chemistry soon became an official recognized science. America also had its alchemists, including several state governors. There were groups in Pennsylvania who brought with them many of their early German alchemical writings, which were quite extensive. By the 1800s, the practice of alchemy had largely disappeared in the outer world in favor of its still younger offshoot, chemistry. Alchemy survived underground in various secret societies, which became popular, especially towards the end of the 19th century. In the early 1900s, H. Spencer Lewis received a charter from some of these European contacts to form the ancient mystical order of the Rosary Crucis, better known as a Mark. Among other things, they taught laboratory alchemy as it was handed down by earlier Rosicrucian sources. In the early 1940s, one student of these classes was Albert Radel. Frater Albers went on to teach these classes himself and later split off into his own to establish the Paracelsus Research Society in 1960s, which became accredited by the Paracelsus College in the early 80s. When the passing of Frater in 1984, there seemed to be a void in the ecumenical teachings and the lack of central point where students could exchange information. By the early 90s, through the efforts of several of the PRS students, contacts with the French group were made, and the philosopher of nature, Pon, was formulated to fill the void with fresh ideas and to carry on research in alchemy. The pond closed in the late 90s. Now we have the internet, the new Library of Alexandria. As we shall see, chemistry, left to grow unfettered, has nearly come full circle to discover the Hermetic philosophy. All right, I did that because I think it's really important. I don't know about you. I mean, you can see that even in what I would call today communities within, even YouTube, social media, no one that I've seen, very few have really understood what alchemy is. And now we understand why. And if you think about it, these very people who are pursuing what they perceive to be alchemy become lost in understanding that it's basically chemistry. And chemistry, we know, has powerful, how shall we say, spiritual connections. They can give you an antipsychotic drug that will bring in a different personality. Now, we know in the alchemy of our ancestors, when they were able to take simple grains and through the alchemy of sugar, yeast, and by adding a little heat, that we could begin to do something called distillation. Distillation allowed us then to begin to distill. Well, we could distill water, but that wasn't any fun. What we found in the alchemy of these combined molecules, that they attached a spiritual presence to them. That's why all hard liquor is called spirits. It's a reason for it, because literally that is how it works. The same thing in my experience in my early youth with hallucinogenics, alchemy. Through the combination of arranged chemical compounds, it begins to release other areas of this body. Now, many people seek healing and they do not understand that the alchemy that they have gone to, which is your doctor, and I'm not anything against doctor, I have one, love her, she's great, but when they prescribe a prescription to you, remember, break the word down, prescription. It's alchemy. You, again, are going to be under an influence of this chemical compound because you've consumed it. Now, if you're really serious about studying this, this is great wisdom being revealed here. I mean, it's amazing. For instance, aspirin, which is a byproduct of the willow tree, primarily, Again, the natural compounds given by nature itself in their proper order and the proper amounts, when consumed, have miraculous effects. Healing for your body, regenerating organs. And if we take this a step further and begin to understand we can apply these very same principles to the spiritual alchemy. So we're saying spiritual chemistry. Now, what does that involve? If you and I can become astute enough in understanding what spiritual chemistry is, we've all experienced it. When you fall in love, that's not just physical. That's a spiritual chemistry that is in action. Much like the human body throws off pheromones, spirits do the same thing. I have the ability that I can come in and it's happened to me a number of times where there's an individual who's what I would call has a very negative presence. They emit an odor. Many people who have experienced poltergeists or visitations from the other side will recognize their loved ones by the smell. My wife's, her father smoked cigars. There was a time when we smelt in our house the presence of cigar smoke. And she immediately said, "What that is?" And I said, "Honey," I says, "that's your dad." I said, "Acknowledge him." Yeah. It's very obvious. Many times, if you are in a presence and you smell what I call the closest thing I can come to it, it's like walking out in an almond grove when it's in bloom. There's that beautiful sweetness. So, spiritual alchemy, spiritual chemistry. It's there. And you don't see much taught on it. You really don't. It's well, I think in the best way, it's been so contaminated, so many times stepped down in what people think that. And a lot of people think that this is spooky, this is occultism. No, it's not. They just don't realize that they're living in the spell or under the influence of an alchemist, master alchemist. And this gives you a whole idea now for those who have kids that are looking for a career. If you've taught them right, they probably would be a good venture to go into chemistry, get their degree in chemistry, become a PhD in chemistry. Why? Because what they're really becoming are master alchemists. I'm just reading some of the comments. And it's true. All right. Now, this brings into focus then in our chapter 1 author coming into this. Now we can see that calcination, well, what the hell is that? Well, get this, chemically, the calcination process involves heating a substance in a crucible or over an open flame until it is reduced to ashes. In the Arcanum experiment, calcination is represented by sulfuric acid, which the chemist, made from a naturally occurring substance called vitriol. Sulfuric acid is a powerful corrosive that eats away flesh and reacts with all metals except gold. Psychologically, this is the destruction of ego and our attachments to material possessions. Calcination is usually a natural humbling process as we are gradually assaulted and overcome by the trials and tribulations of life. Though it can be a deliberate surrender of our inherent hubris, gained through a variety of spiritual disciplines that ignite the fire of introspection and self-evaluation. Physiologically, the fire of calcination can be experienced as the metabolic discipline or aerobic activity that tunes the body, burning off excess from overindulgence. That's why running was so much fun. So if you're into aerobics, now you know you are actually practicing spiritual alchemy. Who'd have thought? It's just that you just never viewed it that way now. It's a whole different turn, huh? So you're burning off excesses from overindulgence and producing a lean, mean fighting machine, baby. Calcination begins in the base or lead chakra at the sacral cup at the base of the spine. In society, the calcination is expressed in the lives of revolutionaries, conquerors, and other warriors who try to overthrow the status quo. On the planetary level, it is the fire of creation, the formation of an environment created from molten matter and volcanic ashes. Eventually, fungi will produce sufficient oxygen for a livable environment. I'm hearing it as well. Yeah, it's our whole being, this environment we call planet Earth, is the result of, no doubt, alchemy in all 3, 4 different states. Love it. Dissolution, second stage. Dissolution is the second major operation in the alchemy of transformation. Chemically, it is the dissolving of ashes from the calcination in water. In the Arcanum experiment, dissolution is represented by iron oxide or rust, which illustrates the potential corrosive powers of water on even the hardest of metals. When processed, the vitriol breaks down into sulfuric acid or iron oxide, which are the first 2 arcana or secret ingredients. The Egyptians smelted iron as far back as 1500 BCE and used iron compounds in tonics and as disinfectants. I love this stuff, I tell you. Psychologically, this represents a further breaking down of the artificial structures of the psyche by total immersion in the unconscious, non-rational, feminine, or rejected part of our minds. It is, for the most part, an unconscious process in which our conscious minds let go of control to allow the surfacing of buried material. It is opening the floodgates and generating new energy from the waters held back. Dissolution can be experienced as flow, the bliss of being well used and actively engaged in creative acts without traditional prejudices, personal hang-ups, or established hierarchy getting in the way. Physiology, dissolution is the continuance of the Kundalini experience, the open up of energy channels in the body to recharge and elevate every single cell. Dissolution takes place in the genital, or what we call the 10 chakra, and involves the lungs and spleen. In society, the process of steady growth through gradual dissolution is exemplified by agrarian, monastic, and agricultural-based lifestyles. On the planetary level, dissolution is the great flood, the cleansing of the earth of all that is inferior. Step 3, separation. is the third operation of transformation in alchemy. Chemically, it is the isolation of the compounds of dissolution by filtration and then discarding any ungenuine or unworthy material. In the Arcanum experiment, separation is represented by the compound sodium carbonate, which separates out of water and appears as white soda ash on dry lake beds. The oldest known deposits are in Egypt. The alchemists sometimes referred to this compound as natron, which meant the common tendency in all salts to form solid bodies or precipitates. Physiologically, this process is the rediscovery of our essence and the reclaiming of dream and visionary gold, previously rejected by the masculine, rational part of our minds. It is, for the most part, a conscious process in which we review formerly hidden material and decide what to discard and what to reintegrate into our refined personality. Much of this shadow material is things we are ashamed of or were taught to hide away by our parents, churches, and schooling. Separation is letting go of the self-inflicted restraints to our true nature so we can shine through. And this is probably one of the more important aspects that so many of us have, or we come out of environments where we have hangups. I mean, they come in all sorts of colors, sizes, shapes, and etc. And many times these hangups are self-created, self-inflicted, and self-restrain us. And it's not to say that the problem with spirits in the process of bringing out your inhibitions is that you're under control of another power. Much better to do it yourself. And that's really just looking in. It's the person who I wrote and was challenged with going to hell. I mean, those are one of these processes. And in alchemy, you can see why it's very important that we find these, how shall we say, material that is no longer needed. And it's time to discard it. It has no purpose, no function, and it serves no reason other than, with its former alchemy influence, keeping you down or restrained, constricted, whatever. Physiologically, separation is following and controlling the breath and the body as it works with the forces of spirit and soul. I love this. Spirit and soul, to give birth to new energy and physical renewal. Separation begins at the navel or the iron chakra, located at the level of the solar plexus. In society, separation is expressed in the establishment of clans, cities, nationalities. Separation on the planetary level is represented by the formation of land masses and islands from the powerful force of air, water, earth, and fire. Fourth stage, conjunction. Conjunction is the fourth of the 7 operations of alchemy. Chemically, it is the recombination of the saved elements from separation into a new substance. And many of you are probably getting this by now. He's giving us step by step. So you could actually be a novice, go out there and get yourself some flask and a Bunsen burner, or you can even do it, what you have available, and begin by some of the simplest processes. And I'm going to show you how you can do that. So you just have to be patient. In the Arcanum experiment, conjunction is symbolized by the nitrate compound known as cubic saltpeter or potassium nitrate. which the alchemists call natron or simply salt. Blue-colored natron acid, aqua fortis, was made by mixing potassium nitrate with sulfuric acid and was used to separate silver from gold. The inert residue precipitated from the acid during the reaction like a child being born. And now you can see those pictures, and many times where you see the stories of, you know, 1500s and the alchemist, and how the residue, it's very important, it's precious on, those beakers, as they would say. Psychologically, it is empowered by our true selves, the union of both the masculine and feminine sides of our personalities into a new belief system or an intuitive state of consciousness. The alchemists referred to it as the lesser stone. And after it is achieved, the adept is able to clearly discern what needs to be done to achieve lasting enlightenment, which is union with the highest self. Often, synchronicities begin to occur that confirm the alchemist is on the right track. And folks, if you want synchronicities, this is the place. They freaking happen all the time. There are times when, as y'all know it, that the intensity of the synchronicities that take place among us are, yeah. So physiologically, conjunction is used using the body sexual energies for personal transformation. Conjunction takes place in the body at the level of the heart or copper chakra. In society, it is the growth of crafts and technology to master the environment. On the planetary level, conjunction occurs when primordial life forms are created from the energy of the sun or lightning. Fifth stage, fermentation. Fermentation is a two-step process that begins with the petrification of the hermaphroditic child from the conjunction resulting in its death and resurrection to a new level of being. Well, that was a mouthful. The fermentation phase begins with the introduction of new life into the product of the conjunction to strengthen it and ensure its survival. Chemically, fermentation is the growth of a ferment bacteria in organic solutions, such as occurs in the fermenting of milk to produce curds and cheese, or in the fermenting of grapes to make wine, all the time. The Arcanum experiment, the process of fermentation is represented by the compound called liquor hepatis, which is an oily, reddish-brown mixture of ammonia and the rotten egg-smelling compound of hydrogen sulfide. Egyptian alchemists made ammonia by heating camel dung in sealed containers and thought of it as kind of a refined mercury that embodied the life force. Liquor hepatis means liquor of the liver, which they believed was the seat of the soul. And the color they associated with the compound was green, the color of bile. Surprisingly, liquor hepatis exudes a wonderful fragrance, and the alchemists made a perfume of it called balsamum of the soul. Wow. Wow. I love this stuff, I'm telling you. Who would have thought? Trina, I know you're listening. We got to talk about this on Tuesday. I mean, the Egyptians, and I know Teresa may be listening to this as well. This is pretty good stuff, that their belief was that where the soul resides is the liver. Wow. Psychologically, the fermentation process starts with the inspiration of spiritual power from above that reanimates, energizes, and enlightens the alchemist. Out of the blackness of his putrefaction comes a yellow ferment, which appears like a golden wax flowing out of the foul matter of the soul. Its arrival is announced by a brilliant display of colors and meaningful visions called the peacock's tail. Fermentation can be achieved through various activities that include intense prayer, desire for mystical union, breakdown of the personality, transpersonal therapy, psychedelic drugs, and deep meditation. Our life paths, folks. Fermentation is living inspiration from something totally beyond us. Physiologically, fermentation is the rousing of living energy, the chi, the kundalini of the body to heal and vivify, become vibrate again, vivacious. It is expressed as a vibratory tones and spoken truths emerging from the throat or Mercury chakra. It gets back to this larynx box. In society, fermentation experiences is the basis of religion. On a planetary level, it is the evolution of life to produce higher states of consciousness. Well, we'll pick up on this tomorrow because this actually leads into the next part. I don't know about y'all. I mean, this is just cool stuff. Just to me, it's gold, and I love it even with the fact that those who don't get it. Thanks for the hitting the like button. But even with the ones who don't, it's all right. It's, we're each on that path. For me, this is like winning a lottery. It's hitting a jackpot that is going to give and derive so many future dividends. Anyway, Nina, thank you. Isn't this good stuff? I mean, this is really, if you're really seeking understanding, and I don't know where else you could, I'm pretty sure that there's someone else out there that is producing material on this subject as well. And I say far out. It's just a discovery for me. And that's what makes it real, is when you experience it for yourself, it becomes real. I think Nina was bringing that out on Tuesday's show. Happy birthday, Teresa. Much love to you, hon. All right. I know this is good stuff. And, we'll eventually get it to where we'll actually, I'm ordering beakers and other paraphernalia, because I think it's going to be kind of cool that we'll do a live show using some of this material a little bit down the road, Martin, Heidi, thank you. Very cool stuff. Like to learn more. Exactly. We are probably for the next 4 or 5 shows, we're going to really study alchemy. We're going to become chemists. I remember in the misery of my childhood with my father there, but the one thing he did do was one Christmas, I got a chemistry set. I loved that chemistry set. I got really good with that. And that was back in the days when they actually put the dangerous chemicals in that. I mean, I'm talking 1965, folks. And I will do that. In fact, I'll send it out to you this afternoon, Nina. But yeah, my brother was sick with the flu or something, and I was making stink bombs in the room. I mean, to me, that was hilarious. But little did I know that it was actually representing what was truly me. And I always did well in school in chemistry as well. You could see me in the lab coat. I got one. Everyone, I'll tell you, this is what awakening is about. We're learning what those who came before us, those knowledge seekers, what they discovered. And I'm sure that they're having a good laugh over on the other side. I think they're applauding as well, probably having a toast. I believe that if you can produce alcohol here, you can produce it over there. I don't see why there would be any difference, but who knows? Isby says, interesting class. Yeah, it is, isn't it? We're all just becoming, alchemists, chemists. And now it takes a whole different thing. When you go to your doctor, and now when they ask them when they're going to prescribe to you a drug, pull out that little sheet of paper. And the interesting thing, you'll see it, you'll understand how the alchemist is working here. And isn't it interesting how they set, and by the way, the base for most prescriptions is salt, sodium. And if you begin to look at this, you can begin to see how the chemicals are connected together that produce the effect when you swallow that pill, what it's doing, and the complexity of what it's changing within us. It brings this out in such a way that as a naturalist, you can begin to see how that lifestyle is becoming more and more difficult. Drinking spirits. That's about all you can do. All right, folks, I really went over. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow. We're going to pick up on this, and we're going to have fun with this. The best way to learn is to learn together. And so those of you who want to learn true alchemy, come join me, because that's what I'm going to be doing. And I think it's going to be fun, and it's going to be beneficial to all of us. That's all I can say. All right. Tune into the Steiger Perspective tonight, Artist First, 10 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. my time. And we'll see why. You're going to see why this is so vitally, crucially important that we learn this stuff now. Anyway, much love to you all. I will